Sir, how did the financial crisis start, specifically the 2007 or 2008 global financial crisis?
Well, they call it the subprime crisis, I guess, and that's the root cause was actually the credit crisis that hit banks when they were able to lend to at subprime rates. They call them the ninjas. I'm not sure if you're particular about the ninjas, but at one point banks were able to craft CDOs or collateralized debt obligations, and that's why they were able to sell some of it and they gain liquidity. So when they get liquidity, what the natural propensity would be to lend. However, when they lend already to prime mortgagors, what's left would be, if you still have excess liquidity, was to lend to subprime. They call them the ninjas. Ninjas are people who have no income, no job, and no assets. In other words, they're not really credit worthy. But the way that they were able to craft it is such a way that they were able to lend to them at a higher than normal rates. That's why I guess if you see that, it's like a ticking time bomb when people that you've lent to started not to pay, and it compiles things, and that's when the credit crisis started. And because of that, I guess a lot of people were holding on to certain loan portfolios which are already in default and they're not anymore valuable. And I think that's the start of the credit crisis. And it spawned, I mean, if bank closed, etc., then it has a ripple effect and a domino effect on the other institutions.
Sir, how did the crisis affect Filipinos?
Well, initially there were reports that the banks were affected by the crisis. There were only a few banks in the Philippines who has exposures to them. I guess if my memory recalls serves me right, it's around 10 billion pesos only, which is not so much. However, I think the real effect is actually the aftermath. Like after the crisis, of course, there were certain adjustments that have been done affecting, for example, some local businesses as well. The effect, however, were both positive and negative. The negative effect would actually include, for instance, Filipinos who are working abroad who were laid off by companies affected by the global financial crisis. So in effect, we have seen some OFWs coming home, and because the company is closed, that is the negative effect. The positive effect, on the other hand, would actually include some companies relocating their operations, or at least their service hubs here in the country. That's why after the financial crisis, you see that there were a lot of companies who relocated some of their shared services. It's not anymore BPO or business process outsourcing. It's more shared services and what they call now the KPOs, or the knowledge based operations of some of these organizations. That's why we see, for instance, JP Morgan Chase relocating or their hub for shared services here in the country. Similarly, HSBC is here, Citibank is here, and that's just to name the banks. Other countries, other companies not into the banks also made the same decision to relocate some of their shared processes, services here. Shell, I know, and Chevron, and DKS as a bank. Well, that's another bank, Deutsche Bank. So these are some of the bigger companies here who has relocated their particular services.
Sir, aside from the OFWs and aside from the things you've mentioned, are there other effects, like for example in the agricultural sector or other
of the global financial crisis
here in the Philippines? Yes.
Well, the effects might be indirect. I mean, if you take a look at the effect indirectly, there were effects. For instance, the OFWs who were there, who lost their job, should go back here. So what would be their livelihood? So most of them either go back to the provinces, hopefully to start applying whatever they've learned out there into the agriculture. Hopefully agriculture will later on pick up because of that. We now have more people who are exposed to technology, agriculture technology outside, who might want to come, who came back, and because of that they might be able to apply that. Hopefully, I'm hoping. If you take a look at, for example, some of the other, not only the OFWs, but some of the other foreigners who might want to retire here. Remember, we wanted to market the Philippines as a retirement haven. Some of them actually went to farming as well, because that's actually where they will be able to apply whatever they've learned, and into tourism. That's the reason why if you take a look at, for instance, anecdotally, I have some friends who said that Siargao and some of these famous tourist spots you have a lot of Europeans there. That means to say, Europeans who have relocated and started their own, mom and pop tourist shop there. And I guess those are some of the ripple effects. They lost their job, perhaps they wanted to resettle here. They married a Filipina for some. They were able to buy some land and they were able to do certain things. So if you take a look at Siargao and some of the other places in Bohol and in Mindanao, the famous beach fronts, you will see that there are a lot of Europeans there now.
Sir, so mostly the effect of the crisis in the Philippines are positive.
Well, positive and negative are very relative.
So,
Relative to the perspective that you would like to say.
Yes,
like
sir.
positive in a sense that we were able to get some of the businesses in. That's positive. But the negative effect, of course, is that some of them also are investing. And I'm not sure if they're gonna stay here or keep their businesses here. For instance, the tourist shops, are they keeping all their earnings here or are they repatriating? So we still have, we don't have yet enough data to be able to ascertain for sure. But I guess that's the role of the government and the regulators and how they're able to ensure that the benefit are kept in the country and the country becomes developed because of that.
Yes, thank you.